Assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen. We have been discussing the exercise of the lesson The Man Who Planted Trees, written by Gianno. In the previous lecture, I have covered the first part of the exercise, that is recalling from question number 1 to 17. We have discussed them in details. I hope you understood that. Now, in the second part of the same exercise, that is interpreting, I am going to discuss from question 18 to 21, and at the same time we are also going to discuss the extending part of the exercise, which is from question 22 to question 24. Now try to understand the concept of interpreting or interpretation. So you have understood the story, we have talked about the story, and then we also discussed the first part, which is recalling of the story. We discussed that part of the exercise, and in that part we were mostly asked the questions which can be directly answered from the story. I can even exactly show you from where these questions can be answered directly from the text, right? Now, in interpreting, basically you will be asked certain questions that you cannot directly answer from the text, although it will be relevant to the story. They will ask questions about the story, but they will not ask questions as they asked in recalling. I will tell you how. Look at your books on page 153. Kindly open your books on page 153. In interpreting section, question number 18. Look at question number 18. What does the detailed description of Bouffiers' abode tell us about the man who planted trees? The same question was asked in a different way, and it was in recalling section, right? I hope you remember that. And it is question number 3. In recalling section, question number 3. Look at that. What does Gianno say about the shepherd's living conditions? It was directly and exactly explained by the writer, and he described basically the living condition. So the same question was directly asked in recalling section, and this question is asked in the interpreting section, but with interpreting way. You have to interpret the story now. Look at the question again. What does the detailed description of Bouffiers' abode tell us about the man who planted trees? See, this answer is not there in the book directly. You have to infer that. You have to take it out from the story. You have to squeeze the information out of it, and then you have to tell the examiner the answer of this question in your own words. Now, you will answer the question in a way that the writer gave us a complete description of the living conditions of the shepherd. He was living in a very well organized house. It was a well built house. The roof was of stone, the walls, everything was well organized. And he made a proper house for living. It was not a temporary camp. It was not a cottage. And next he mentioned that his dishes were washed. He was properly shaven. There was not a missing button on his shirt. Everything was completely there. Although the clothes were old, or they might not be that much new, but they were properly mended. What does it tell us? Why would the writer describe this for us? To interpret it, you will answer that because he was not only committed to his cause. He was not only committed to his cause to transform the whole area and plant a lot of trees. He was at the same time a very well organized person. He knew how to live. We don't expect good dressing from shepherds. We don't expect that a shepherd will have a good shave, or he will have no beard at all, etc. But he was a complete example of, we can't say perfect, but a very well organized person. So since his determination, since his steadfastness or his commitment to the cause, he was at the same time clean, neat, and everything was organized, which tell us about the condition or the personality of the shepherd, that he was having a very well organized person. He was having a very good personality. At the same time, he was not only good at his outside, he was not doing great things, outside, but he was also good internally. His living conditions was also good, right? So that is basically the message the writer wants to convey by describing the condition of the shepherd. Look at question number 19. I hope you understood the difference between interpreting and interpreting and recalling. Look at question number 19. What does Gianno mean by man could be as effectual as God in other realms? Explain. The writer mentioned exactly in these words, man could be as effectual as God in other realms. The man, L.Z. Boffier, the shepherd, he has done a great job by transforming the whole area single-handedly in complete isolation without any help from the government or any other NGO, etc. He did it all alone with the help of one stick and full commitment to the cause. The commitment was that I have to grow trees at any cost in this area, and he did it. So the important thing is not technology or the facilities or the privileges that you have. The important thing is how committed you are to your cause. That was his commitment to the cause which succeeded him in his mission. So the exact interpretation of this short sentence from the book is that mostly it is difficult to construct than to destruct. Construction is difficult, destruction is easy. You can build a building in maybe 2 years, but you can destroy it in 1 month easily, or maybe in 1 day. That is not a difficult job to destroy something. So normally we believe or we think that man is destructive by nature. It destroys everything. Look at what we have done to our own nature. Look how we destroyed our nature, our environment, our ecosystem. So he said that man can also be productive. Man can also be creative or constructive as we believe that God is. Right? So that is why he said this thing in the line that man could be as effectual as God in certain realms. Question number 20. Why had the barren valley changed into a fertile valley with brooks and plants and trees and flowers? Remember that Gianno could not find water there on his first visit. What could be the explanation? Remember, we were asked the same type of question in question number 14, chain reaction. But the same question is now asked in interpreting section in a different way. I told you, you cannot answer these questions directly from the text. You have to come up with your own words. To achieve that, they have, a slightly, there's a subtle difference between these two questions, but there is a difference, right? So he said, what could be the explanation for all this transformation? Remember, this was a barren valley, and now it is a very fertile valley with brooks and plants and trees and vegetables and flowers. How did it all happen? Simply one word: by planting trees. All this transformation happened because he was growing more trees. And that is why we in the current era, in 21st century, specifically after 2010 or even after 2000, I believe, the climate change, we are trying to tackle it with trees. We are trying to plant more trees because we have destroyed the nature. And the biggest reason for that is that we have destroyed our trees, we have destroyed our forests, we have destroyed our jungles, and we have constructed concrete jungles. Look at everywhere, you will find buildings, lots and lots of buildings, but you won't find trees in that number, specifically in cities. So the only reason or the only explanation for this question is that because he planted trees, and as a chain reaction, the whole area was transformed into a fertile valley. Question number 21. Why does Gianno declare the work of Boffier as a work worthy of God? See, he said that this is a job we expect from God. God can transform these things. But he said, when you have determination, when you have hope and courage, You can be as effective as God, right? When you have the will to do something. So that is why he commented that it was a work worthy of God. Like, for example, we most of the time as human beings, we underestimate our qualities. We are the creation of God. It means we can also do certain things and very great things if we have complete commitment, and if we have determination, and if we have courage to do that, and if we have hope to achieve that. You have to have hope in life. Otherwise, this is very difficult. That you will survive this life easily. This is very difficult if you don't have hopes. If you have, if you like see your future with a very dark glasses, it is difficult for you to live then. So, keeping all these things in mind, man can also do wonders, and this one single man did a wonder, no doubt. That is interpreting this section. We have discussed from 18 to 21 in this section. I hope you understood the difference between interpreting and recalling. Now we are moving ahead and we are going to discuss the next part, that is extending. And believe me, extending, you will enjoy these questions, because this is not directly or a little bit boring like the recalling questions, because you have already studied the story and understood the story, so it is a bit more boring when I ask the same question time and again. But if I give you a different perspective, which we most of the time see in the extending part of the exercise, let's see what is there in extending. Look at question number 22. And remember, I won't be answering them completely, since this is more of your own subjective approach. You are supposed to answer them. I will just explain the question and try to come up with general suggestions. Question 22. Which mountainous area of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa would you choose to plant trees if you were a Bofia? Remember, if you were a Bofia. Now here, although we know that LZ Bofia is the name of a person, it's a proper noun, but here it is used as a common noun. If you were a Bofia, if you were a Shakespeare, if you were a Ghani Khan, for example, right? So sometimes we used to use proper noun as common nouns. So here this Bofia word is used as a common noun, although with a capital B. How would you like to see it after 10, 20 years? Be imaginative. And there is an exclamation mark at the end of this question. And there's a reason behind that. Alright, since you belong to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and if you are even not from KP, if you are from any other area, you can imagine, you can think of the same area that is in dire need of plants. If you believe that, for example, I saw a place which was, I believe, can be a fertile land, and it is best to plant these type of trees in that area. So think about that. Maybe there is an area in your village, maybe there is an area in your town, maybe there is a place, a field, and a mountainous area even in your own district, in your own union councils, etc. And that you can think of that maybe this area is best to plant, for example, olives. This area is best to plant oak trees. This area is best to plant birches, etc. Okay? Or this area has the capability of becoming a forest in the future. So you can imagine or think about your own areas, or maybe places that you have seen, and you believe that this can be a very good place to plant this type of or this species of trees, right? And be imaginative. See, because you have to imagine, you have read the story, this is the part of fiction, literature, you have studied one story or a fiction, and then you are going to apply that on your real life. So keeping these images, these things in your mind, try to be as imaginative as you can, and think of an area which you believe could be a perfect place to build a new forest in that area, a man-made forest, as you have in Changamanga in Lahore, right? Alright, we have question 23rd, which is the second last question of your exercise. Write a detailed note on how man is destroying his environment. Discuss the various ways in which the environment is being destroyed. This is purely related to global warming, this question. Write a detailed note on how man is destroying the environment. of course you know that. How are we destroying the nature? First of all, I believe that we have destroyed our nature with the excessive use of plastic. You know, Bangladesh is Bangladesh is the only country in the world, I think in 2001 or 2003, they banned plastic. You know, we consider Bangladesh, you know, quite a third world country, which is no doubt, but they look at them. In almost 19 to 20 years ahead of us. They banned it in 2003 even, and we could not even ban it in 2021. We are still using plastic. So just think about that. There are so many other ways. The excessive production of vehicles, we are using vehicles. You know, everybody has a single vehicle for themselves, which is again destroying the nature. We have factories, waste is coming out of them, we are polluting our water with that. The air, they release a huge amount of carbon dioxide, which is again hurting the ozone layer, etc., etc. You know that better, and you can come up with your own answer about this. You can write about it in details, that these are the factors which are affecting the environment, and it is basically causing global warming. And the next part of the question is, discuss the various ways in which the environment is being destroyed. And for example, India is producing almost 60% of its electricity from coal, which is a very huge amount, and it is also destroying the nature. Same goes for China, same goes for the US, and there are so many big tycoons, you know, capitalist countries. They are destroying the nature, of course. So you need to talk about them. There are so many other ways due to which we are destroying the nature. And remember, when you destroy or when you hurt the nature, this is very much common, and this is very much expected that the nature as a result will hurt you back. Let me finish off the exercise by the last question, question number 24 in this section. Compare and contrast the description of the area by Gianno on his 3 visits. What was the significant difference that Gianno discovered and described? You have to keep the 3 visits of the writer in your mind. What was the first description of the area? What was the second description of the area? And then the last description in the area, which is on page 150. The second paragraph, from the point I went on foot, the war just finished had not yet allowed the full blooming of life. This exercise is basically the last description of the area. Then compare this passage, this paragraph with the first paragraph. This is also a descriptive paragraph of the area, and there is another paragraph on the first page of the story, that is on page 145. Compare these two, and then you will realize how huge a change came in that area just by planting trees. I am not going to talk about it any further. I hope we have well explained and understood the lesson and the exercise at the same time. If you have any confusion and question, you are free to ask. That is all from my side. Inshallah, we will discuss the next lesson, which is basically a poem, in the next lecture, inshallah. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.